Hi everyone, it's Katie from Chords Records. Welcome to my channel. If I could ask you to subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. You can unsubscribe later, that's fine. Just trying to grow my channel, shamelessly, I guess. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. So just before the holidays, or sort of the holiday break, very near where I live, there was advertised on Facebook Marketplace a little bookshelf vintage system. And I'd been looking for one because I visit my elderly mother quite a lot down in Sydney. And I was thinking about setting up a little kind of system down there for when I buy records. And I went over to the house. It was very nearby, just a couple of suburbs away, and it was just a few $100, and we played a record. I took a couple of records over, mainly jazz, and it sounded beautiful, and I bought it straight away. I couldn't believe it. It sounded better than, I've got quite a bit of equipment throughout the house, and these speakers were just absolutely warm and beautiful, and I'll talk about them in a minute. I brought the kind of the kit home and put it in our spare room, which we're setting up just for guests, and it's still there. I haven't taken it down to my mother's because I want to keep it. It's just beautiful. So what is it? It's a 3-component system. So we have a vintage turntable, a vintage amplifier, and then sort of vintage speakers are a little bit more recent. So when I say vintage, in my mind, they're not vintage. I think of vintage as anything from 70s but these are actually 80s. But for a lot of people, that is vintage. So they're 1981 and 1985. So the actual amplifier is a Yamaha R500. It was kind of their R series. It was the lower level. I think it was the second one up, that was made in 1981. Very sort of 40 watts per channel AM FM receiver. It's got a beautiful wooden veneer on it and gorgeous kind of green backlighting. All of it is beautiful, and obviously a phono amp, and it looks the part, that's for sure. But running the system that I've got, it sounds beautiful. So very, very happy with it. And vintage gear just surprises me. I've got a little bit of it now. You can see I've got this Sansui, I've got a vintage turntable, I've got a vintage tape deck TAC there, and I'm really loving it. I want to upgrade my vintage turntable. I'm thinking of getting something a little bit more special, but really, really happy. And so this little system, we start with the Yamaha R500 amp. The turntable is just fantastic. I never thought I'd get an automatic turntable, but it came with the system. It's a mid-80s Technics SLBD20. So it's semi-automatic or automatic. So, you kind of lift the arm, move it over, player starts, you lower the needle, and off it goes. And then when it hits the inner groove, or it ends the side, it lifts and comes back. Or if you hit the stop button, you press the stop button, it lifts and returns to position. So it's quite convenient for walking away. And I know that automatic tables are a bit dodgy, and their mechanisms can break. It's got a AT85 EP stylus on it. It's a P kind of system. I didn't know much about it, but it sounds fantastic. And the guy that I bought it off had said that he'd semi-recently, in the last year, had replaced the stylus. So it sounded wonderful. So that's the turntable. The speakers are what blew me away. You may not have heard of them if you're watching from overseas, but they're an Australian manufacturer from South Australia, from Adelaide, called Krix. And these are amazing. They're from a bookshelf line. They are Krix Equinox, and they're a Jarrah bookshelf speaker, and they sounded absolutely beautiful, warm, rich, filled the room. These speakers are beautiful. And I reached out to Krix and asked them if they could give me a sort of a manufacturing date. I couldn't quite work it out. And they were so lovely. They got back to me straight away, and they told me that they were manufactured on the 24th of June, 1998 at 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon. So they were very specific that their logs had registered it. So 28 years old. And finding out a little bit more about them. They do make home speakers, but their real specialty is cinema, in cinema kind of speaker systems. But really, really beautiful. So that's my kit. I've got a Technics, a 40-year-old Technics turntable, a 45-year-old Yamaha receiver, married with these kind of 30-year-old Australian Krix speakers, and it sounds beautiful. And they're going to stay in my spare room, and occasionally I'll play records with them. And I actually just this morning took my Nick Drake in there, one of my Nick Drakes in there. Sounded beautiful. All right, I just want to share with you a few records that I've recently purchased. And the first bunch I'll show, all four of them, is by an artist called Jesse Wells. So we went to see him in his tour. He was touring Sydney. By the time you see this, or maybe just before, he's nominated for a Grammy on Sunday night. He's up for a Grammy, and he's the real deal. He's an incredible guitarist, and we were front row or second row and just watched him kind of fully shred his guitar. But what he's mostly known for are his troubadour kind of immediate folk songs that he writes and releases on social media kind of within a 24-hour period when something happens. Very political, a kind of sort of like a Bob Dylan, if you like. And his turn of phrase is cutting. He's recently been on late night television. I think he did a performance on Stephen Colbert. And honestly, if you don't know who he is, look him up. He's just extraordinary. Very, very shy. He came with a bass player and a drummer, so it was just a trio, and him and his guitar. And I think he said 2 words the entire gig, and he played for a full 2 hours. So that's him there. But amazing musician. And we bought all these albums. Some of these albums are quite hard to get if you buy them online, and particularly if you're ordering them from overseas. And luckily he was selling everything at his gig, and really happy to support buying merchandise at artists' gigs, because that's how they make a lot of the money. So we bought all 4 that he had available. Right, the next one is an artist called Lizzy McAlpine. Absolutely love Lizzy McAlpine. She's one of the kind of crop of singer-songwriters that came out about 5 or 6 years ago. And she released a beautiful album probably about 3 years ago now called Older. And this is her deluxe version, which she's released kind of a few years later, called Older and Wiser. And it features the album, but it features live tracks from her tour that she did supporting it. She's an incredible artist, actually, and she's a beautiful singer, beautiful guitarist. She's very much a performer that doesn't perform solo. She performs in the round, ensures that her band are fully present in amongst it. She relies on her band as part of the formation of what she does. And she's an interesting artist in that she's just this year, she's been on Broadway in a role performing, and there's a show on I think it's Netflix called, I think it's Netflix, it might be something else, called I can't even remember. It's a high school spirit, a ghost show, something spirits. Clearly not my wheelhouse, but she's guest starring on that show. She's getting into acting, and really beautiful double album. I've got the original, and I'm happy to have this deluxe album. Finally, I'm trying to feature more and more Antipodean artists with my videos. I realised I wasn't featuring enough of the great Australian, New Zealand music that we have. So more and more you'll see, I'll always try and feature an Australian artist or a New Zealand artist if I can. And this person is amazing. This is her album, Feel Alive. It's her debut album. She is I'd call her Americana. She plays every stringed instrument you can imagine, whether it's banjo, guitar, mandolin, ukulele. Really, really proficient in all those instruments. That's her kind of, as her name suggests. Her voice is beautiful. And what I love about this album is it's very Australian centric. So she really references Australian kind of idioms within the lyrics and the songs. There's even a song on here called Melbourne Blue, and Melbourne being obviously one of Australia's main cities. So she comes from Melbourne, or Naarm as it is in our Indigenous language, and she's the real deal. She's got like 1 million followers on Instagram, and that's kind of where she's grown her fan base, and she doesn't need a label because of social media. And so she's not on a label, she's not signed, and she's about to tour the world. She's touring America, she's touring Europe. So look her up. She is really fantastic. That is Steph Strings and her debut album, Feel Alive. All right, hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.